What is going on, young man? Listen, on today's video, I want to talk to you guys about breaking dependencies, right? And no, I'm not talking about drugs or alcohol. I'm talking about relationships and people, right? Breaking relational dependencies. That's what we're going to talk about today. Listen, I am the over 50 guy slash the online dad. On this channel, I give young men practical advice and tips to help them avoid a lot of the crazy and pitfalls that I went through at your age, so that when you get to my age, you can have resources and options to be able to live the life that you really want to live. That's what we do here. Let's get into it. So yeah, guys, I had a request on my live the other day that I talk about this. And, you know, if I'm going to be honest, I got some pretty decent experience in this. Because I struggled with this for the better part of my 20s, like really being dependent on relationships. I hated being alone. I can trace that back to a whole lot of childhood stuff, but nonetheless, I hated being alone. I felt as though I always had to have a female or be in some type of relationship. And I found myself at some point staying in relationships way longer than I should have, simply because I didn't want to be alone. I was dependent on these relationships. I felt better when I was involved with somebody. It was almost as if my self-worth was increased as a result of being in a relationship. And I've been like that for easily the better part of my 20s into my, early 40s. And as I look back on it now, it kept me in relationships way longer than I should have been. It kept me from really building and developing myself, because I was almost crippled outside of these relationships. And when I wasn't in one, I was busy trying to get back into one, or trying to stay in the one that I was in. I talk to you guys constantly. About how you cannot get time back, right? And how all of these things, whether it is chasing box, whether it is how these things take your attention away from the thing that you need to be concentrating on most at this time of your life, and that is building yourself, right? I want to give you guys three things on how to break dependency. And if I had these things early on in my 20s, then maybe I wouldn't have had the issue that I had with it for so long. So three things I want to give you guys on breaking dependencies on relationships and people. Number one, you have to create a healthy relationship with yourself. Listen, again, when I look back on it, when I was so busy trying to be in these relationships and chasing after this one and trying to start another one once the one ended, the thing that I was not doing, thing that I wasn't doing in that entire process, young men, was building myself, right? Was doing the things necessary to make myself better. I stayed stuck for a long time because I was so busy building relationships with other people that I lost sight of building the number one relationship that you have to have. Before you can even have a decent relationship with someone else, you have to have a decent relationship with yourself. You will never get to that. You will never get to a point where you develop love of self. You develop appreciation of self. You develop all of these things. You will never get to that. You will never get to that, young man, as long as your focus is on someone else. It needs to be on you first, in developing a healthy relationship with yourself. How do you do that? You set goals, you accomplish them, you stretch yourself, you try new things, you learn different things, right? All of this, young man, is centered around you, not you and somebody else, just you. Learning about you and what you like and how you do things, how you think. For the better part of my 20s, I was so busy worried about who I was with, I didn't even know how I felt about things. It was because I was so dependent on other people and the relationships with them. I failed to cultivate the main relationship that I should have had, which is the one with myself. So, guys, if you want to break out of this thing with dependency, you have to create a healthy relationship with yourself. Again, how do you go about doing that? My second point, if you want to break dependency, you're going to have to develop an appreciation for solitude. That's the only way, young men, that you really get to know yourself is by being by yourself. And that thing back in the day, man, that terrified me. That terrified me. That terrified me because I didn't have a healthy relationship with myself. That's why I probably messed around with so many females, because it kept me occupied, right? It kept me in a position where I didn't have to deal with myself because I didn't have a healthy relationship with myself. I know people that have healthy relationships with themselves, and I'm like this now, that having somebody around, that's like an add-on, right? But if they're not, I'm perfectly fine with just being by myself. I heard it put like this: I enjoy my own company. Being able to enjoy your own company will break you from being dependent on relationships. But you cannot enjoy your own company if you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself, because you don't even know who you are. It's not a wonder that I spent so much time chasing after other people, relationships, friendships, that type of thing. If I would have known what I know now about myself and appreciating my solitude, setting goals for myself, being busy, accomplishing things, that type of stuff, then I wouldn't have had an issue. I wouldn't have had an issue being around myself, right? Because I got stuff to do. I'm happy with me because I'm doing stuff. I'm setting goals. I'm accomplishing it. I'm learning new things. I'm developing as a person. Anything you can think of that will make you better, right? It's happening, right? And that is developing the healthy relationship with yourself. And once you do that, young men, once you do that, listen, if somebody wants to come along, that is absolutely fine. If they don't, you cool. You know why you cool? Because you have a healthy relationship with yourself. And whether somebody is there or not doesn't matter. Lastly, how do you develop a healthy relationship with yourself? How do you develop an appreciation for your solitude and learning yourself? You do things on your own. Men, I cannot tell you how many times I didn't go places or I didn't do things because I didn't want to do them by myself. And if I'm going to be for real, it was me thinking that I was going to look a certain way by myself, right? That people were going to, well, why is he by himself? That kept me, young men, from doing so many things. It kept me from traveling on my own. It kept me from going to and experiencing different things because I wouldn't do them unless I had someone with me. There was times where in my 20s, like I wouldn't even, going out without my dudes. No, man, I gotta have my dudes when I go out. And when I look back on it, that was really an awful idea, but nonetheless, that's what it was. Because I didn't have a healthy enough relationship with myself, it's almost like I had to have a buffer. Always had to have a buffer with me at all times, whether that was a chick, whether that was one of my dudes. I always had to have something between me and the world. And if you're going to break that, if you're ever going to break that, young man, you're going to have to do things on your own. It is going to be uncomfortable. When I finally broke out and started doing that, man, it was horrible. It was horrible. But by doing that, I started creating that healthy relationship with myself. I started trusting being with myself, being around me, right? That never would have happened if I didn't break that relational dependency of always having to have somebody around and started doing things on my own. You know what happened as a result of me starting to do things on my own? I started to appreciate my solitude. Like back in the day, yeah, anybody can shoot through, especially a chick, because I'm uncomfortable being here by myself, right? So yeah, it was box, but it was company too. It was something occupying the space instead of just me. And once you get to the point, young men, where you appreciate your solitude, now you got some options. You got some options there. Maybe I don't want to be bothered with you. Maybe I'm cool just sitting here by myself. That is a much better feeling, young men, than, just, yep, yeah, shoot through, shoot through. Shoot. There was times, if I'm going to be honest, I ain't even want to be bothered. I really didn't want to be bothered, but it was better than just being by myself, right? Because I did not have a healthy relationship with myself. So those are the things, man. If you're going to break dependency, and for the person that suggested it on the live, I cannot remember your name. I apologize. But if you want to break dependency, these three things you're going to have to start doing. You're going to have to create a healthy relationship with yourself. You don't learn to appreciate your solitude just being with you. You will never go out and try different things, have different experiences in life if you're always waiting for someone to do that with, right? So those three things, you have to learn to do things on your own. You're going to have to learn to develop an appreciation for solitude. You're going to have to create a healthy relationship with yourself. Listen, jump on YouTube, type in breaking dependency and codependency issues. Learn about this thing. And what you're going to find is these 3 points that I'm telling you about are going to come up often. Creating a healthy relationship with yourself, learning to do things on your own so that you can enjoy and appreciate your solitude. It is going to suck. It is going to feel awkward. It is not going to be comfortable, but it is necessary for you to break the dependency on others. So listen, that's all I have. I hope that adds some value. Hope that helps for you guys. Listen, one-on-one coaching is still available. My email is in the bottom of the video description. Put coaching in the subject line when you email me back, and I will get back in touch with you about that, let you know how that whole process works. Weekly lives at 11 o'clock. Tap in. It is absolutely a great time. And that's what we got, man. So listen, I am the Over 50 guy / the online dad. We'll be back with another one soon.